Hello everyone. I decided to do a little demonstration here and see how this goes. I'm not a professional, so this is my attempt at making a video. This is the picture I did yesterday in my sketchbook, and it is primarily a watercolor background with acrylic ink as the second layer. I am using Daler-Rowney Payne's Gray as the dark acrylic ink, Daler-Rowney Flame Orange acrylic ink, and light olive green Sennelier acrylic ink. What I like to do is wet the paper. I like to put the ink, and I like to wet the paper. When the paper's somewhat wet, but then it's starting to dry, I like to spritz in other things. So I'm going to show you that. Here are my little toilet papers, cut and scrunched. That's how I got the different shapes. I also like to use this woody Stabilo pencil. It's the chunky size. This is my paintbrush, number 6 Rosemary. And I have a cup of water, just a little bit of water in here. And I have a bit of the orange ink here. So I'm going to demonstrate on this piece of paper. So my watercolors are here, and quinacridone gold is here. This is the main gold that I used. I have my bowl of water, cup of water here. So I'm just going to very loosely and abstractly lay in some of this quinacridone gold with not any real thought in mind, just getting some color down. So when it's wet like this, you can play around with it a good bit. So I'm going to toss in just a tiny bit of Cad Red to make a little variety. Now I'm going to take my toilet paper, my paper roll here. I just scrunched it into a unique shape. I didn't want a circle, so I just scrunched it up. And I'm going to dip it into the orange. So the paper's bending because it's wet, but this is when it mushes together, makes really interesting, unexpected shapes that I like. So now I'm dipping the same roll into some of that Payne's Gray. And now I can get some darker marks. I'm not trying to make any particular subject. I'm just making marks. Go back into the orange. And I have this other roll shape I like to go off the edges especially. So there's the first layer. The Stabilo pencil, I can wet the end of it, and go in here. Makes really nice lines. It's sort of creamy, like a ink, like a thick ink, like a creamy ink consistency. And again, it's sort of looking like a organic branch of some sort, so we'll go with that. But I like to make marks with it. I use this pencil a lot. So there, it's wet, it needs to dry. That's the first layer, and I would just leave it. I wanted to show you this green ink, what it does. It's so amazing. If you just put some down with the actual dropper, just some little marks. And then you take a spray bottle and just barely spritz it. This is how I get underbrush, like foliage that isn't defined. It's just a suggestion of foliage. You can kind of aim the sprayer to direct the ink. And that's one of my favorite ways to use this ink. And also, I used the paint spray to do the lesson on the cracks. I just did some marks with the paint spray. Like that. And took the sprayer and created the texture that I wanted as cracks or whatever you want to have. You can go in with a paper towel and pick up excess if you want. So that's how I use ink. I like to use ink, and also I do this with pen. The pen that's not water soluble. This is a Stabilo pen, but you can use any pen that's going to run any ink. You see the marks a little more, but it's still a nice effect. So that's how I did my picture, my painting I showed from my sketchbook yesterday. And this one, the painting I just did, is almost dry. It's drier, still a little wet, but when this dries, then I would go back in and maybe look at this and figure out, do I see flowers, or what I want to do with it, and add some more watercolor on top, like if I wanted to make that into a petal or whatever. Then at this point, while it's still pretty wet, I could add this green in for the leaf, or a suggestion of foliage. So let's see if I can move this up. Okay, so like this, and put some green into the stems, just touches of green here and there, so that I could spray those and have them run a little bit and be more of a suggestion of foliage rather than drawing a leaf per se. But it's still pretty wet, so it's a little hard to get that going at this stage. But I think you kind of get the idea of how I get this effect. So, I hope this was helpful. This is Deborah Babin. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.